Okay, hello. Welcome to the channel. So my name is Victor, and this is likely going to be the last series in the product design training. Now, the goal of this series is to make sure that you have a very firm foundation, a very strong foundation in product design, UI, UX. You understand all of those principles. You understand most of those guidelines. And after this series, we're now going to move on to the hands-on, to trying to use Draw.io, to try to use Figma, to try to use XD, to actually put up all of the things we are discussing into action. So let's talk about interaction design. So interaction design is the practice of designing digital interfaces and experience that enable users to interact with technology in meaningful ways. So this goes slightly beyond user experience. In user experience, the focus most of the times is how easy will it be for the user to use it? What kind of experience, what kind of emotions, what is the user feeling? This is synonymous to what we call branding. Branding has to do with what the user thinks about a particular company or a particular product or service. Now, but in interaction design, we're trying to look at how can we make sure that there's this intuitive, efficient, and user-friendly goal made possible by the product designer. Now, if you come to a website or a mobile app, most of the times when students do programming, web design, we try to differentiate between HTML, CSS, JavaScript by saying that HTML is the skeletal framework of the site. CSS has to do with color, the look and feel, whereas JavaScript has to do with the interaction, right? So if I'm to use my body, HTML is going to be my skeletal system. CSS is going to be my flesh, the fleshly part of my body. Then JavaScript is going to be, can I move? Can I interact? Can I speak? Can I gesticulate? So that's the difference between you looking at XD, you looking at user interface, which is just the designs, looking at user experience, and now we're talking about interaction design. Interaction design encompasses various elements such as user research, information architecture, prototyping, and usability testing. So you cannot do interaction design without fully understanding user experience. So they go hand in hand. Animations, interaction comes to play when we're looking at interaction design. So all of those swipe right, swipe right, those interactions that happen, those micro actions and animations, it is very, very important to consider the context, purpose, and user emotions. If you load a website, for instance, user interaction is going to be, if I click on a particular icon, what am I going to be getting, right? What am I going to be getting? If I click, or maybe request code or payments or careers, what am I going to be getting, right? How am I going to be interacting with the different sections of the site, right? So this is what you call interaction. You see this response to my behavior is what you call design interaction. And it's very key. It's very key to tell us whether we're going to have a smooth process, a smooth user experience or not. So all of the click actions you have, all of the swipe right, swipe left, click on something and it drops down, those are classical examples of what we mean by interactions. So things like hover effect. So hover effects can be if I tap on Buy Software Hub or Campus Hub, I'm going to see maybe a change in color or something. This is it. You see there's a change. So that's interaction. If it has a drop down, this background becomes this. this become this. So this is what we mean by interaction design. So when you are designing, beyond looking at what was it called? Beyond looking at the design itself and the experience, you also want to look at how you can make sure there's some form of interaction between the product itself and the user. Look at this image. So this user interface, what happens on the screen, user experience, what happens in front of the screen, then interaction is an intersection between the interface and the experience. Right? Very key. So things like hover effect, progress bar, swag gestures are components of interaction design. So interaction design, to do that, there's an overlap between that and prototyping. If I click on login and I log in, I get this. If I click on my profile, I get to this page, right? So that is the interaction. And you can use prototyping to like explain all of that. Design systems and component libraries are tools that help designers and developers create cohesive and consistent user interfaces. A design system is a collection of design principles and guidelines and assets that define a company visual language and brand identity. So this is an example. Look at this color scheme, for instance, for on this file on Figma. You got to learn how to develop this. You see, this is a color theme, gray style, title, body, label, a placeholder, line, input background. That is if I have a form and I have to input text, then background, then white. So you see the instructions. So these are like the guidelines for that particular application, that particular website. Colors. So this is going to be the primary color. This is going to be the secondary color. If I have an error while interacting with the application, I'm going to get this. If there's a success, I'm going to get this. So the gradient is going to go from this to this, right? And my gradient for my primary gradient is going to be this. So this ensures that you have consistency across all your brand collaterals, from websites to mobile apps, to prints, to buildings, to sheds, to cups, to everything about that particular brand. So if you don't have guidelines, it's going to affect and you're going to give the user a very bad experience, and there will not be consistency. In terms of text, right? See the text, when it is large, when it is medium, when it is small, when it's extra small. So, so these are like guidelines. These are the icons. So for every design you're going to be doing, you're going to come up with like a brand guideline. You're going to come up with what should inform whatever kind of design that's going to be done. So in later series, I'm going to now be doing case studies, examples, like working on actual projects. So you call them principles, you call them guidelines, you call them assets, right? So that's what informs the entire team to save time and reduce inconsistency, because if you don't have consistency, I just said a while ago in the previous video before this, that I had to reject the job because there was a lot of inconsistency. And this provides a single source of truth for design and development. So if you're going to be designing a mobile app, if you're going to be designing a website, if you're going to design, let's say, books, shirts, if you are going to paint the building, if you're going to do magazines, you have to stick with the brand guidelines, right? I think later on, I'm going to do a series on branding and brand guidelines, because it informs how you are going to do your designs. Okay, so popular design systems and component libraries include Material Design by Google, Bootstrap, and Ant Design. I prefer Bootstrap. Material Design is owned by Google, so they give you like a library, and they give you a lot of fonts, a lot of icons. If you go to a site like Fort Awesome, right? Icons, you see a library of icons that you can use and you can adapt for a particular brand, right? You can adapt for a particular brand. So whether you're talking about an address book, you're talking about bar chart, you're talking about bid, depending on what you're looking at, you have an existing library of, look at accessibility. Okay, just a second. Let me get back to home. So we're just talking about an archive, a library of different brand icons, right? So it gives you a lot of consistency, right? A lot of consistency, so that across board, your what's it called? Your icon, your types, your fonts, all of those things are very consistent, right? So Facebook, for instance, so if you want to use this, you can use this image. You can, it doesn't have an animation. You can change the color and all of that. So what tasks we're going to be doing is that we're going to be creating an interactive prototype for a new feature or a function in an existing app or website. And we want to incorporate micro interactions. At times when I tell my designers to do something for me, let's say on a website or on an app, I'll normally tell them, let it be some kind of interaction. If I come to a page, if I click on something, there should be some movement. There should be some interaction. There should be some animation. It gives life to whatever you're doing. We're also going to design a food ordering app for a movie theater, considering all the design systems learned. So we're going to be putting color, typography, and iconography to create an interactive system. So icons is just what we looked at earlier on. So these are icons, right? Okay, so collaboration and professional skills. So I'm going to look at this later on at the end of our program, but understand that we need to learn XD, we're going to learn Figma. Then there are several career paths to this, right? So some things that you want to learn also how to use is if you're going to work in a remote setting, you want to learn how to collaborate. Remember, I talked about non-technical skills, right? Communication skills are very important. And to do communications remotely, you will now need to use communication tools like Slack, like Microsoft Teams, like Zoom, like Gmail. They need to learn things like design thinking. Very, very important. Then let's look at, so typically, how do you think? How do you look at the customer? A lot of psychology is very key in developing better designs. Career path in UI UX design. So you can be a UX designer, you can be a researcher, you can be an information architect, you can be into interaction design, you can just be a writer. So you can decide your path. And one of the things you want to do now is to go ahead, this is a task, is to create a Dribbble account, a LinkedIn account, a Behance account, I've already talked about that, a Medium and a Twitter account. Most of the designs you're going to be doing, you're going to start pushing them. You're not going to get the perfect design, but it gives you a kind of history about your journey as a product designer. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this series. And subsequently, we're now going to get to the tools. We'll have some case studies and we'll start designing. Happy designing.